Postables and Hallmarkies. Welcome back to another episode of Deliver Me a Podcast, part of the Hallmarkies podcast. I am your host, Casey, and I am here with lots of people. You are, you know, Cammie. Hello.
Hello.
And you know, Jess.
Hey, Postables.
And we have a wonderful guest with us. She's like the godmother of the Postables, and I think Cammie could testify to that.
I certainly can.
We have the fabulous Marybeth with us. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Postables.
Casey, can I just tell the Postables how she is my fairy godmother?
Yes, go ahead.
This is the woman who orchestrated for the Postables to send my daughter letters, not tweets, not emails, letters and cards for her to turn 6 in quarantine happily. And she just, boom, she said, Cammie, I'm on it. And I'm going to get everybody going. And she got in touch with so many people, and she bought my daughter a present and put it all together in this big padded envelope, and it showed up on her birthday. So it was perfect. So yes, Marybeth is now my Postable fairy godmother.
Happy to do it. That's what Postables do, right?
That's what Postables do.
That's right. So sweet. And you have some of that footage or photos on Twitter, don't you, Cammie, of your daughter?
Probably.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and going, "Oh, so sweet."
Yeah. I
So
took a
sweet.
picture of the padded envelope with all the cards. It was fabulous. It was awesome.
So, Marybeth,
Yes.
we usually like to ask our guests if they want to introduce ourselves, if you have anything you'd like to share, and how did you discover Signed, Sealed, Delivered?
Well, actually, I didn't watch it from the beginning. I started watching it on a marathon. And I remember thinking, I don't have to tape all of these. They're just, this is a series. I can just tape a few. So I watched the pilot, and I watched one of the 2-hour shows that they used to show before they had a lot of movies, where they took 2 of the episodes and blended them together.
Right.
And by the time I got to the end of that, when I saw From Paris with Love is the last movie of the marathon, I knew what was going to happen. This was Oliver's Come to Reckoning Day. So I watched those 3 that day, and then I wished I had watched the rest. And like everybody else, you see flashbacks in these episodes, and there's more. So then you start looking for it. So I ordered the series and watched it before it was on Hallmark Now, watched the whole thing, and then started Googling and found Alameda Downing and the blog, and then I was hooked.
Yeah. And I know with Alameda and Downing, it's just, you just rabbit hole into that blog of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and
Right.
just Chandel's amazing brain of just connecting pieces and everything. So, yeah.
And then you start meeting the community of people who are on that blog.
Fabulous.
Commenting. And then it wasn't maybe 5 months afterwards that I joined Twitter, because you start seeing the scrolling, and you think, I want to make a comment. So then all of a sudden you're on Twitter.
So when did you find the series then?
I was probably maybe 2015, maybe August or September, because I did watch Truth Be Told and Impossible Dream live when they premiered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you have had to endure all the waiting.
I didn't have to, really, because I didn't have to endure that wait after Hope in a Future with Oliver delivering that letter or mailing that letter.
Yeah, she didn't have to wait from the series to the second movie.
Right. But from movie to movie after
Oh, that's excruciating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long haul. We Postables have been very patient.
Yes.
Kept petitioning for more. And we have been successful, and I hope we're going to be successful again.
Yes. We sure are rooting for that. That's why we're doing the podcast too, because we were like, we want more Sign Still Delivered.
Shaliver wedding, Shaliver wedding.
And that's what all the people are saying who watched the marathon the other day. Like before Mother's Day. Almost everybody on Facebook and on Twitter are saying, wow, I've never seen these before. I want more.
Yeah.
Because the Facebook community of Postables has exploded since the marathon.
Yes.
So hopefully with the marathon and our podcast, we can keep reaching more and more Postables. And Postables, they don't know they're Postables yet, but we're going to bring them in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I got 2 new comments on my little article about Sign Still Delivered, and I have 2 of them. One about the To the Altar, and then the other one, which is 25 Reasons Why You Should Watch Sign Still Delivered.
Oh, fabulous.
So yeah, I had 2 people just comment out of the blue, and one lady was like, I was promised myself I wasn't going to watch this because just some other things, and then she did, and it was like, so people want it. So Marybeth, you also now, are you the one that you originated the traveling DVD? Is that you?
Yes, I did. Yes, Kristen one time wrote about her movie At Home by Myself with You, and so people started getting the idea of watching it. So it was very difficult to get, and she sent a link to Canada Amazon, and there were 2 copies left, and it was pretty expensive for a DVD. So I did manage to get a copy. I don't know why, because a lot of other people could not get it from that source. But somebody made the comment, well, why don't we just start sharing it? So that's how the idea of the traveling DVD got started. So we started it out, and then, people would put a comment on Twitter, and someone else would say, traveling DVD? I'd like to see that. So then
That's a great
we kept
idea.
adding names to the list. And we're passing a journal along, so Kristen can have a journal from everybody's comments as they see the movie. And I want to get that to her fairly soon, and then I'll start it around again, if people want to see it.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And I do have it in my possession, and I'm going to watch it tomorrow.
Oh, good.
And have it shipped off. So
And I'm
It's
the
very
one that
cute.
sent it to her. So
yep.
Yeah, it's a cute and clever movie. It's very, very clever. Kristen's great in it. I believe she won a Canadian award in comedy.
a Leo award?
Not a Leo award. It was a different award.
Oh, okay.
And she did a great job. So
Yeah.
And it's a very timely movie because we're all stuck at home. So
They're all
That's
stuck at
right.
home.
you can relate a little bit to that.
yeah.
Well, that just goes to show you how tight-knit of a group the Postables in real life are. And I think the idea of the traveling DVD is super fun, especially for me, because I used to love the movie Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. So it's like the DVD version of the pants that everybody like passes around, and the pants do something magical for each girl. And,
Yes.
so super fun for us.
Oh, goodness.
Alrighty. So today's kind of going to be a fun little episode. We don't have a movie that we are recapping today. We are going to talk about our favorite moments from the series part, the episodic series part of the canon. And when I was thinking about it at first, they said, let's just do our top 10 moments. And Jess and Kami were like, seriously? How can you pick just 10? So I started thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, that is kind of hard. Like, how can you rank different things? It's kind of like apples and oranges and picking a favorite child. So we have kind of like yearbook superlatives. So best of, favorite laugh out loud moments, that sort of thing. And we have little categories that we are going to be discussing today. So I'm very excited. And if you've listened to our podcast, you know that Kami, Jess, and I are very different, very different in our tastes, our personalities. Apparently, their definition of flirting is different than mine.
Oh my gosh, here we go.
Jess is a non-romantic, whereas Kami and I lean way more romantic. I mean, we are
the puddles on the mop.
That is the perfect.
Gotcha, guys.
Yep.
That was such a fun discussion, though.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that was one for the books, that's for sure.
And even
Yes.
on Twitter, I mean, that just
I
had
know.
legs.
Yes.
We were getting that flirting thing going, man.
Yes, and we even had, I think Brenna, I think she's SSD Girl 24. She had a whole thing that she had written out, and I was like, yes, you go, girl. Keep writing that stuff. It was so fun to see everybody's thoughts. I will say, I know Eric Mabius responded, and we were going to try our hardest to get him back on the podcast because he was on Hallmarkies pod, I think 2 years ago now.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So we're going to try and get him back for Deliver Me a podcast, but I want a straight answer this time.
Yeah.
He's
Kristen,
not good at straight answers.
Kristen gave us a straight answer, so
Kristen
Eric
did give
has
us a
to give us
straight
a
answer.
Kristen about fell out of her chair when I asked her about the flirting.
I loved it. Yeah,
so fun.
that was classic. I remember that I said to Eric, okay, as an actor, while I very much appreciate the creative answer, what's the straight answer? Was he flirting or not? You know?
He'll
So-
always give you the creative answer.
He'll always give you the creative answer.
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And that's a plug. If you haven't heard the interview with Eric Mabius or Crystal Lowe from the Hallmarkies podcast, go back and listen to it. Super great. And of course, Kristen we had last week. So go back and rewatch that one and listen to it too. And we are going to try and get Jeff as well. So
We're
That would
being
be
Coming for
great.
you,
ambitious
Jeff.
here.
yes. So
He pops up on Facebook every once in a while.
He does. When
Yeah.
you never expect it, and you're like, oh. There's Jeff.
And he doesn't call any attention to himself. It's
Oh,
just
no.
a short answer, and then someone notices who it is.
all right. So let's kick it off by talking about our favorite laugh out loud moments. I think that's appropriate as we have been laughing quite a bit today.
Quite a bit.
So, Marybeth, our guest of honor, what would you say your laugh out loud moment would be?
I'll tell you what, I thought a lot about this, but I picked the brazenly manipulative scene
Yes.
between Shane and Oliver. And, you know, it's not hilarious laugh out loud like some people would consider, but it's just such a perfect scene to show how the two of them are battling over how the DLO should be run. But it's perfect because he calls her brazenly manipulative because she is ruining the fabric of his department. And what will Rita and Norma think? And then she comes back to him after she takes the mail from the general and says, I would rather have this in your hands. The person who believes that a person who mails a letter has faith it's going to get somewhere, then put it in that red tape on his desk. So she, you know, gives him back exactly what he needs to believe in her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he says, you are persuasive. And she says, or brazenly manipulative. Just very, very clever writing.
I wrote that one down too.
Yeah.
I've got another
Okay.
one. I've got a backup.
Okay.
Yes.
Glad you agreed with me.
Very much.
I actually watched that scene today and I did laugh out loud. I do love the banter between the two of them, especially because they are so different. They're oil and water, especially at the beginning. So it's always fun to see the snark.
It is.
So Jess, what would you say your laugh out loud moment would be?
I chose, so they're like two moments, but they kind of go together. So Norman, when he first has his field kit. And then later in Dark and Night, when he comes in all like 007 with the sunglasses, like, I need my Arnold Palmer shaken, not stirred.
Yes.
So yeah, or Norman and his trying to be his little covert CIA type postable squad going on there.
Yeah, we've heard stories that Jeff is hysterical outside of Norman too, so it just makes it even better. Tammy, what about you? What's your laugh out loud moment?
Okay. I had a lot.
Pick one.
Like I said, the brazenly manipulative was the first one that I wrote down. So, but I'm going to have to go with the way the guys react to Rita when she comes in all bombshell and just the looks on their faces. And Oliver says, "You have taken our breath away," and Norman literally goes, oh my goodness, I died the first time, I die every time. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to pick that one.
Yeah. I would say my laugh out loud moment, it makes me laugh. No, I don't know why. Every time I see it, and I've seen it 100 times, it's when Shane, Rita, and Norman decide they're going to go spy on Oliver.
Yes.
And they see him hug this like bombshell of a lady, and then it's super awkward the next day at breakfast. And the best line, yes, that's the line. And I love Crystal Lowe's face because you see it just so quickly, and she's just like, she covers her mouth and she looks like a puppy, like that, I don't know, got caught eating treats that wasn't supposed to. Like, she's like, oh. So
She looks like a little 5-year-old who ate the dessert first or something like that. You know, just
and I love how Norman's like, are you serious right now? So that would be my laugh out loud moment of the series.
oh my
Great.
goodness.
All right. Now that we've had our laughs, let's have our cries.
Now we're gonna cry.
So the cry-worthy moment. Who would like to go first?
Can I go first? Can I go?
Yes, Cammie, let's go.
So no one takes mine.
You're gonna steal it. I know it.
I know it.
I only have one for this.
Oh, Sammy running into Buzz's arms at the graduation. Ah, just cry and cry and cry buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
That's the one I had.
I can loan you another one.
It's okay. You know, I think that was the moment that's the moment my husband walked in and I'm like sobbing on the couch and he's like, what are you watching? And, like, and I think he even was thinking like, did another Mountie die? Because I found the series right after season 5 of When Calls the Heart, where Jack is dead. And so I was sobbing.
She needed something to console her.
I know, I did. But it was a beautiful moment and it was a beautiful cry. So
there is no other moment like it in the entire series. There really isn't.
Well, unless you go to the movies.
Yeah.
Not in the
Yeah.
series.
No, I'm talking about the episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was
Oh,
like,
the
wait a minute,
movies.
Cammie.
The movies are a whole nother category. No, I'm talking about the episodes.
Yeah,
There's no other moment like it.
mm-hmm, for sure.
true.
Marybeth, would you like to go next?
Sure. My cry out loud moment cry-worthy moment is when Oliver agrees to say a few words to the sisters in The Edge of Forever when they're putting their mother's ashes at the edge of forever. And that scene where he is saying about the sparrow,
The eye is on the sparrow.
its eyes on the sparrow. I'll tell you, that scene is absolutely fabulous because his heart has just been broken by Shane revealing some news about his wife. He doesn't want to face it. He's hurt, he's vulnerable. And kind of all through the walk up to this spot, they've been kind of trying to forgive one another. And just her saying, Oliver is a man of faith. He'll say something for you. And the words he chooses and her looking at him, she understands how she's hurt him. And we just see how hurt and vulnerable he is and how he's lost his hope. And Eric Mabius was fabulous in that recitation. So that always gets me, that scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when his voice kind of breaks a little bit when he says, when hope within me dies, because he's just kind of lost hope about Holly because of Shane's meddling and doing the things she does.
There before he goes on. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Your heart goes out to him.
What about you, Jess?
Well, first I renamed the category because I don't cry. So I called it my emotional moment.
Oh gosh.
And I put the same scene from To Whom It May Concern, although specifically I put her speech. Just the way she delivers it I thought was so profound, and I got a little misty-eyed. Wasn't quite crying, but I got really close. So yeah, and I think a lot of postables would agree on that scene for sure. Is one of the top biggest emotional moments from the series.
Yeah. My cry-worthy moment, my second cry-worthy moment, since Cammie took my first one with Sammy and Buzz. It would be when Norman finds out that the lady with the stamp book had passed away and had passed on the stamps to her. It is such a short scene, and Jeff is amazing with the comedy, but he's also amazing with the emotions too. And it caught me off guard as well.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of saw it coming, but because it was like the very end scene in that episode, it was just like so heartbreaking, especially dear sweet Norman. Don't hurt Norman. Like, don't break his heart. And his heart was broken. So that was my cry-worthy moment.
Well, and he looked like such a little boy. He was such a little boy, and his mouth was actually turned down, but it didn't look it didn't look fake. It didn't look like he was turning into a child. It looked like something Norman would actually do as a grown man. But you have the mouth completely turned down, and then you have him leaning over to Oliver's shoulder. It just breaks your heart. Totally breaks your heart.
And it's our first sense too of their family unity as a group.
Yeah.
He knew enough. Oliver knew enough that he needed comfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Our next category is the best surprise. So, I mean, you could take this one however you want. It could be anything. But what was the best surprise for you guys? Jess, would you like to start?
I took a little leeway on what surprise meant. I put the biggest surprise was Artis when she came in. Because, you don't know what to think of this grandmother, and then she just comes in with all her bravado and like, it is me, your grandmother. So yes.
And she goes straight to Oliver, and she's like touching his face and pinching his cheeks and everything.
You're not Oliver. I mean, you're not Norman, are you?
Yes. So I don't think any of us expected Artis to be that exciting.
Yes.
Eccentric.
Yes, eccentric. With her yak milk and
Birds of paradise flowers, her favorite flowers.
Yes. So, Cammie, what about you?
Okay, so I kind of took this as, huh? What? That just something I wasn't expecting. So I would definitely say the appearance of Artis, because I grew up with the 1980s version of Annie, so I was very familiar with Carol Burnett, and I didn't see her name in the credits. But I'm gonna go with another one, and it's when Norman scales the rail. And when he climbs up the rail in the masterpiece to go fetch the painting, I was like, "What the? Oh my gosh! What?" and he does it so matter-of-factly, like it's something he does every other day. I'm like, well, only one way to find out. Like, he's climbing up the equipment. Okay, it totally took me by surprise. I was, what? Okay.
And I think that's the scene that I think Kristen had referred to, that Crystal lost her mind, probably with laughing. Yeah, like climb up the conveyor belt.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
thing.
That's what it was.
So funny. So Marybeth, what about you? Biggest surprise or best surprise?
I took surprise as just something that happened that was a surprise in the series, and so I guess I picked the Dark of Night Award. When Becky announces that they have not only won the local medal, but they've also won the Dark of Night Awards, and the look on Oliver's face is just priceless, because that's what he's wanted. And he's finally gotten it. And, Shane ribs him and says, now this is fun. That was kind of a nice moment.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise.
Yes, I love that scene, and I'm going to say more about that scene a little bit later.
Okay.
So I took surprise kind of the same way. So the best surprise for me was with the pilot, with Kelly being alive.
It's a good one.
That's a good one.
Especially because, okay, I'm a newer Hallmarky person. I've only watched the last, few years, and you kind of see that, that person's really not dead. You see it coming the whole time. But with this one, and this is why I got hooked to Signed, Sealed, Delivered, because the fact that in the last few minutes of the movie, she just comes rolling in on her bike, and I'm like, hold on a second. I thought she was dead. Everything pointed to her being gone. What is going on? And I love that they just threw that in there, because the whole time I thought, nope, Hallmark did it again. They
don't believe everything you read on the internet.
That's right.
That's a good PSA.
So that was my best surprise.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Alrighty. So the next category we have is the biggest cringe moment. The moment that you just want to close your eyes and pretend it didn't happen, but you have to see it because, Marybeth, would you like to go first for this one?
Okay. I guess, cringe could have been defined different ways, but I thought my cringe moment was in the masterpiece when Cora had Norman read a piece from Rita's book, and she says something. He reads something about life is for the taking if you only listen to the bidding of your heart. And then Norman says something like, "That's not really us." Cora says it's about us, but it's not about us, is it? And Rita is just crestfallen, the look on her face, and she says, no, I guess not, but I mean, she was so sad, and he just wasn't getting it. Everyone was trying to tell him, and that was kind of cringe-worthy. And then, of course, she comforted Rita. And I heard one time that wasn't in the script, that Delarice actually, that sign, or that line that she had about you are sensational, or you are, what was it? You are magnificent. She put that line in, and they kept it because it was so amazing. Yeah. So that was my cringe moment.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty cringy when someone makes your crush read something that's about you. So yeah. Right. Cammie, would you like to go next?
Actually, can I go later? Because I had a 3-way tie, and that was one of them. So I want to see if they can get whittled down.
All right. So Jess, how about you go?
Well, I had a 2-way tie, and I was hoping Cammie would say one, so I wouldn't have to choose. But I'm gonna say, I think it edges it out a little bit. The porch conversation with Shane and Oliver.
Oh.
In The Edge of Forever, when when he says, this is what friends are like, and she's like, I don't know, I never had a friend like you. Maybe you presume too much. It was like, it's like a dagger to the heart. There's just so much in that scene, and it's hard to watch, even though I know how it ends, in the series. It's still hard to watch each time.
But what's so great about that scene, though, is that it was absolutely necessary, and Martha doesn't step away from those moments.
No.
He makes us look at them, and it's not all pretty, They're flawed characters, and they get hurt, and that's why it takes a while for their stories to evolve. They can't, so I think that's one thing about that scene that's remarkable.
Yeah. I had that for my biggest cringe moment. I mean, even though it was necessary, it was still really hard to watch, especially just, the anger in Oliver was expressed so well that like even I wanted to like hide in a, you know, I don't know, under the porch and be like, no, I'm gonna pretend I didn't do it. Like if I were Shane, I would be like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and it's like a fairly like calm anger. It's not like he just flies off the handle. You know what I mean? It's very well composed anger and gives it a bit.
That's
more
almost
depth.
more frightening.
I know. It's like, why? It's like, oh.
Yes, it's like when you get in trouble by your parents, like when they're yelling, it's like it's okay, but when they're like, I'm disappointed in you, it's like, I'm so sorry. You know, and that's how I felt. But I mean, again, like you said, Marybeth, very necessary for their character development, for their relationship, and for Oliver to, you know, kind of let go a little bit. Very important. So, Cammie.
Oh man, dang it! I've got a two-way tie. Can I do that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them is, so how'd it go with the Broncos? You just go, no. Oh. and then it's too late. He already stuck his foot in his mouth. And then the big one for me is the first time we see Rita dance. That's a train wreck that you just cannot look away from. You know?
But I love it. It's great.
But I'm just like, oh gosh, because it's not that kind of dancing. You know? It's
True.
ballroom dancing, and then she just goes off doing her whole thing, and I just go, oh man, just smack my forehead.
She dances like my Filipino aunties at weddings, like
just limbs are flying everywhere. It's a very free-spirited dance.
Free-spirited kind of dance.
But I can't believe so I had two, and I thought for sure someone would take this other one. Nobody said when Oliver listens to Shane and Becky talking about him, and then he's just like with the book, and his shoulders are all like, oh, what do I do?
That was a great scene too.
I love that. Eric did it so well. Like you just see, like, it was so uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even consider that cringeworthy. I think I was listening for lines. I think I was listening for a best line, or considering that as a candidate for the best Shane and Oliver moment.
Well, that scene doesn't really make us cringe. We just watch him
cringe.
I cringe for Oliver.
We're laughing too hard.
Right.
Good call,
Yeah.
Jess. I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah, those are some, I mean, you know, cringe is a very diverse kind of word, but I think we've covered a lot of cringing moments, whether it was for the character or for ourselves. So great job, you guys. All right, so the next topic we have is #Norita. Top Norman and Rita moments. Cammie, would you like to go first?
Sure, why not?
He's like, I have a 10-way tie. Help me.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna have to go with the bug.
Oh, that's mine.
Mine too.
Do you want me to say my other one?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say my other one and you can go with the bug.
I'm a scientist. I get the bug.
Okay, I'll say my other one. When they're standing in line for the marriage license.
Oh, that was mine.
Keep going, Cammie. I could stand on people's.
Hey, I think that this shows just how in tune we are with each other, and how great the series is that we can pick out these awesome moments and they're all the same.
Well, let's just talk about those two moments then.
Okay, why don't we?
Yeah, let's talk about the bug, and you know, why y'all, you know, pick that one.
Well, and that's kind of a two-parter because you have his quiet support. I like the quiet support better than when he tells her about the bug. You know, just because you got Miss squash up there in the front. And all he does is clear his throat and hold up the pinchers. And it seems like such a dumb gesture, but because we know what it means, it's that much more. And, you know, that moment means, that moment of quiet support, just, I'm here, you're unsquashable, go for it. It's just, I love it. I love that moment.
What about you two?
I was gonna say, I actually like it for the opposite reason. I liked when he tells her about the bug more than the quiet support.
That's okay. We gotta have a different opinion somewhere. You know,
we're different people. We've talked about this. So
yes, we have.
First of all, well, I'm a scientist, so I love the nerdiness of the fact that he thinks of this bug. And if somebody comes up to me and tells me about this bug in this way, I'd probably just marry them right then and there. Like,
you hear that, fellas?
They're talking to me about the South Pacific tree lobster, guys. Okay. And
that's how you get her blood pumping.
Woo! No,
Rita too, apparently.
That's right. But I love it because at least up through the series, Norman is so out of tune. So not out of tune, but him and Rita have a hard time communicating and being on the same page, kind of like with the book thing.
Absolutely.
And he just overhears the conversation, and he just, in this very adorable Norman, slightly quirky, nerdish way, knows exactly what to say in a way that is unique to him, because it's that bug and no one else but Norman would think of that. But it also is something so profound that would affect, to help Rita and know just how amazing she is, because who doesn't love a bug like that?
Yeah. What about you, Marybeth?
You wanted me to do the same scene?
Was that your pick, or?
Oh, well, it was one of mine, but I have a few more. But I also love the speech that Rita does after that. It is just amazing. And what I love about the speech that she gives afterwards is that it can apply to any of us. That's the kind of stuff that you take away from Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and remember that, if you believe you're unsquashable, you can do just about anything. You don't worry about the problems. You just dream about the future. And it I think is just a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
But I also love the scene where she introduces him to Ramon, and Ramon ties his tie in treasure chest. This is my Norman. I mean, I work with Norman, and tie-tied. I think that's just hilarious too. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. With this unsquashable thing, I think too, it shows their growth together. Because at first in the pilot, Norman is terrified of Rita and his feelings for her, and she is almost like terrified of him too. So to see them just, starting to click and starting to have their own like language that they're speaking is super fun, and to see their confidence grow it's amazing. And that's just the beginning for those two. More to come, of course.
Well, and then take it a step further, and he gives her the stuffed animal of a crab, which is totally adorable.
Nothing says I love you like crabs.
I wrote that down as my favorite postable line, and then I thought, no, postable doesn't say it. I probably can't count that.
Honorary postable.
Honorary postable. Okay, are we gonna talk about the courthouse now? Getting the marriage license?
Yes.
So I love that scene simply for a lot of reasons, but the fact that Rita is still in her bombshell mode, and you got Mr. Nerd right next to her, and Casey Manderson plays the clerk so well. It's such a tiny little part, but he does so much with it. And just, this is your fiance. lucky man. You can tell he's totally jealous. And then how Rita, he says fiance, and she just, did he just yes, I am. Just takes his arm and no, I'm the lucky one. She just gets all swoony, pretending for a minute that this is real. And then, of course, Norman completely breaks the mood and goes, double trouble.
That was mine too, was when they start the double wedding, double trouble, and they start laughing because they're like, ha, ha, ha. It just makes me laugh.
I feel like school children just giggling together.
Yes!
So precious.
I love that scene. Oh man. All right. So let's move on to our top Oliver and Shane moments.
Okay, can I just say that picking the Norman and Rita moment and the Oliver and Shane moment, these were really, really hard because they're big moments happen in the movies. And so trying to separate the movies from the series and go, okay, what Shane and Oliver moment do I like from just the series? Oh my gosh, it was hard. I'm like, because everything's kind of building up until the movies. And so, yeah, this was very difficult for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like phase 1 of their relationship too. So
phase 0.1. If we're talking in Oliver terms,
well, I mean, everybody has a relationship, whether it's them just being coworkers or them going to friends or them having feelings. So it's like, but I'm gonna start with Marybeth. What would you say?
I really loved their dance in the pilot.
Oh,
yeah.
I just thought that was such an amazing scene. Just how they started talking. I mean, she invited him to dance, and then he just opened up and invited her to open up, and just the dip with the word that the eschew. It just, he saw in her someone who was on his intellectual level and who spoke, the way he liked it. I just thought that was a wonderful dance. And then how he gave her the clue for finding out how to find out Charlie and Kelly's website.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty great moment, very early in the series. So established the chemistry right away.
It definitely did. I almost forgot about that moment. And for Oliver, it's almost interesting that he opened up so early on and then closes right back up.
Yep.
But yeah, that was pretty swoon-worthy for sure.
That was a swoon-worthy moment.
All right. Okay. Jess?
I was going to say the really obvious one, but I'm going to change my answer.
No. Say the obvious one. Come on.
No, because someone else is going to say it. I have a better one. Well, not a better one, but I'm going to choose instead when they're at the Mailbox Grill and he says, I don't want a nice lady. I want you.
That was one of my choices. I love that line.
And he's like, you're not entirely without grace.
Be still my beating heart.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And he's like, reel it back in. Take back the words. Can't take back the words, so I'm just going to do a mild insult. I'm going to become Darcy.
Yeah. Oh, my word.
Oh, man. So, Cammie, what about you?
All right. I'm gonna leave the obvious one for you.
Oh, good.
But no, this is it was a tie between the two. I gotta go with the vault.
The flirting?
The flirting.
I couldn't resist.
The flirting in the vault. But no, I cannot pick a single moment in the vault. Just the vault The vault is so incredible, and there's not a single kiss. There's a hug because she's breaking down crying, but it's not really a romantic hug. It's more of a she's desperate and he's calming her down. So, but oh my, it fills me with such emotion. It really gets the juices going. I don't know how they pulled off making a scene that could have been so boring, so compelling. You know, just the back and the forth and how they're reading the letters, and then he looks straight at her when he says, "Will you marry me, Casey?" But yeah, I gotta go with the whole vault.
Yeah, yes. Be still my heart for real.
Really?
Woo, I'm telling you. All right. Okay, Casey, say the one we're all thinking of.
It's the dance in the DLO. I wrote that one down. I watched it 3 times today. Because
and so it goes, and so it goes.
Oh man,
Casey needs a fan.
I do.
In and out, in and out.
I do need a fan. The first time I watched it, I was very surprised at how quickly it just went from a platonic dance to a romantic dance.
To a not so platonic
dance.
dance.
And the reason why I watched that scene multiple times today is because I wanted to see up close, like, when was the turn? Like, when did it go from like, oh, we're just, doing this for a recital to bam. And you can tell, like, there's the very, very beginning. It's like, okay, Oliver is like, I'm just going to do this because whatever. Shane's like, yeah, I'm doing this because this is fun. And then you see kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing a really good job. And then there's a moment where like he gets really close to her and it looks like he's like taking in the senses. And that's when everything started changing, because you can see Eric maybe is like, he kind of tightens up just a little bit, and you can kind of see within his movements, like he's struggling not to let his feelings out. And like, you can see like there's internal turmoil there more for him. And then with Shane, you can see when they get also really close and they're face to face this time, because for Oliver, I think it was more when he was behind her and like they were doing that move. I think that was like really when it was starting to like evolve for him. And I think for Shane, it's when they got really close before he like
let her go.
Yeah. And before he lifts her too, like he does that spin thing and then they're like really close and then they go dance. And then right before he lets her go is like, you can tell Shane's like, I don't know what just happened here. I don't know if I'm supposed to like it because he's married. And then also too with Oliver leaving, like he looks at her twice, like, and it's like a brief glance, like, I'm a gentleman, I'm gonna look you in the eye to say goodbye, and I'm gonna just like get out of there real fast. So yes, and then I wrote the lines too where from and so it goes, where I feel like Oliver like he starts getting those feelings. Every time I held a rose, I only felt the thorns. Right. It was very like important there. And then also the dip. Bless up for the dip. So, all right. I'm good.
Don't you guys love the way Martha uses dancing metaphorically too? Like, I mean, we're going to go ahead to the movies, but you know, the dancing is just the metaphor of their relationship. It's just brilliant.
For sure.
You know, this isn't the moment that it turned for me, but it was kind of an after effect of the turning. If you notice when they start the dance, this is kind of hard to do with just me, but if you notice when they start the dance, they're holding hands like this. You know, he's in the proper he's in the proper posture with his hand just holding on to hers. when he pulls her up from the dip, he's cradling her hand, and that brings them in closer. And I mean, they are close enough to kiss right there, you know, and just that tiny little, we used to have a joke where I went to school that we called it premarital interdigitation. So when you hold hands with someone like this, no big deal. But when you do this, that's moving it to the next level. So it was just a joke around the campus. But seriously, when he starts dancing with her, he's just like this. And then by the time he brings her up, it's like this. And he's holding her instead of holding the pose, and just go, hello. You know?
Yes.
Can you breathe now, Casey?
I'm good.
Casey needs a minute.
I need a minute. Man, and I know, I think also too, because I've heard this from other interviews that Kristen's done, who's the better dancer between her and Eric. She is. I don't know if you remember that one that she did with Kenny. She did an interview with Kenny, I think last year, and he says, "Who's the better dancer?" And is Eric a good dancer? That's what he asked, and she pauses like. And then she's like,
should I tell the truth?
He's great. So that makes me laugh, but it just shows amazing work for them, because I mean, dancing is hard stuff. Footwork, eye work, coordination, emotion, everything. So
when dancing is a pivotal part of a scene, that, I mean, it's not just dancing in a competition, you know,
right.
You've got to have everything on point at the right point, you know. It's just, it's for sure. It takes a lot of work.
They had to do that quite a few times in the
I
entire
believe
series. There was, even in the practice dance scenes, in the Masterpiece and the Soulmates, they had some nice little dance moments.
Yeah, they have done quite a few, and I hope we get some more.
I do too.
I can't. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine the two of them dancing at their wedding reception? Oh my gosh. That would be so, that would bring, I could die happy. You know, just seeing that come full circle. And of course that's going to be their song. It better be their song. You know, if that is not their song, I am going to be mad.
Jess, here's a mop.
Because I
need a couple mops.
I think that might be wise.
Yes, we're already gone. We're already melted.
We're already gone.
All right. So our next category is best postable line quote.
Oh gosh.
Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I love the line in the pilot when Oliver tells Shane that coincidence is the middle name of the Almighty. I often quote that line to other people, you know, like I take that line away from me. And I think since then, Martha's used words like trust the timing and divine delivery. And Oliver says in one of the movies, I don't really believe in coincidence. But to me, that line is just, it's what the whole series is about, you know, believing that what's happening, like the letters we don't find the letters find us.
Right.
And I love that line. I think it's just really beautiful. So.
Yeah, that one's so good. What about you, Jess?
So for me, a lot of my favorite lines actually come from the movies. So I took this more just like lines that really amused me. My first one is actually not my real answer. It's my Postable's adjacent answer because it's not really a Postable. He says it is Shady from Betty. But my real answer is in Time to Start Living at the very end, where they're like, Sylvia, you're under arrest for trafficking and obstruction of justice, and Oliver's like, in stealing a letter to grandma.
I almost wrote that down.
I love it.
That one's good.
Oh, man.
He picks up an orange instead of the gun.
Yeah. Funny. So funny. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. I guess it's my turn.
It is.
Oh gosh. Okay. Can I say a couple?
Sure.
Oh goody. Okay. So all right, Jess, you're going to appreciate this one. Zip, zap, boom.
I say that all the time. I forgot about that one. I say that all the time, though.
Zip, zap, boom.
That's going to be a t-shirt.
That's got to be a t-shirt,
Write
Casey.
it down.
Right now.
I'm writing it down.
I also love It's a Red Letter Day. Oliver O'Toole stood corrected. And then I had to write all of these down. Of course, nothing says I love you like crabs, but technically that was not a postable who said that. Oh, okay. So I love when Oliver says the saddest words are those that are left unspoken. That's kind of my serious one. And then when Shane says, if she doesn't want him, I'll take him. And soulmates. I love that. Just, wow, this guy can talk. Okay, need boyfriend. I'll take him. You know? Not me, Shane. Not me.
So funny. I have a couple. My one was the masterpiece when Oliver says, I don't want a nice lady. I want you. You and I have danced together before, and you are not entirely without grace. Oh, be still my heart. Just cracks me up. Also,
see, that's the thing is so many, you can't really do one-liners from the series because they're conversations that go together that make us laugh so much.
Yeah.
Or that make us cry. I'm just like, how do I pick one-liners? You know?
My other one is when he calls her Cheryl and Shane come back Shane in the pilot. So funny. And then my postable adjacent one, because I mean, again, when I came up with these categories, I was pulling out of a hat. I was like, it'll be fine. And then I had to actually do them, and I was like, there's kind of a lot here. This one's postable adjacent, but it gets me every time. It's in The Future Me when Ellie's dad says somebody had to bring the stars tonight. Oh, that one, it's so
Casey's a sucker for the
sweet.
Father-daughter thing.
I am. But Marybeth, did you have any more?
I have one more favorite one.
Yeah.
And that's in Hope in a Future, when Norman is talking to his grandmother in the mine, and he's telling about how he used to like to play, what was he playing? Temple of Doom, Indiana and the Temple of Doom, and he got stuck in the closet.
Right.
And he cried and screamed, and when he went down and laid down, he saw the sliver of light. And now, no matter how dark it gets, light will always find a way in. And I think that's a pretty cool line too.
Yeah.
For the postables.
Yeah. There's always the classic, we do occasionally push the envelope.
Yes.
Yes. That's another good one. All righty. So our second to last category is the favorite letter story.
Oh, this one was easy. To Whom It May Concern, hands down. I love all of them, but that one is just, that one is just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It has so much heart. And Marybeth, I don't know if you heard this, but it was almost, I said this when we did the recap, it was almost more compelling to me because it wasn't a romantic story, which is weird because I'm such a hopeless romantic. You know, you would think that the romantic stories get me more, and they could have easily made her older, and they could have easily made it a romantic story, but they didn't. And just, I don't know, the fact that she tried so hard to find somebody that saved her life, but she looked at him like a big brother instead of a love interest. It meant more. And I loved the fact that when she runs off that stage, I mean, she can't get off that stage fast enough, and she just charges at him and jumps in his arms. You couldn't have pulled those two apart for anything, but it wasn't romance. It meant more. It was even more compelling to me because it wasn't a romantic story.
I just noticed it when I rewatched it, how he started saying F is for family. And she was sad about that because her family wasn't around anymore. So she changed it to F is for friend. And when she was up in the helicopter, that part of the pillowcase was over her eyes, friend.
That was in my cry-worthy moments.
But back when she graduated, he said F is for friend, and she said no, F is for family. I just love that carry through. It's perfection.
Yeah.
I love too in that one. I'm gonna butcher the quote because I can't remember it word for word, but
I watched it today. I'll help you.
Okay, it's like when Oliver says something along the lines of like, so I think it's Oliver. So often we like take for granted the privilege to be able to learn how to read and to write.
In this day and age of tweets and texts and abbreviated thought, so many don't appreciate the value of learning to read or
write.
Something to that effect. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
It is. It's really, and just the fact that someone who believed in someone didn't believe in the rhetoric in the war to not do something for this girl changed her whole life. And this girl carried that gratitude all the way back into her own life, and she's taking care of underprivileged kids. It's the impact we can have on one another is what's so wonderful.
Yeah. And I mean, that one too, you have diversity, you have PTSD, soldier PTSD. I mean, there are a lot of heavy topics in that one, and it's just done so beautifully. And that's the one that one makes me cry.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them do, but that one was the first one that I was like, oh, my heart. All right. So the one I have written down is the treasure box. And that's the one with the letter and the flirting that,
I'm sorry, the what?
The 61% of the people, but I still need Eric to confirm, whatever.
Kristen did it. Kristen confirmed it.
From a female perspective, of course, Shane would want Oliver to flirt with her. I just want to know if Oliver was actually flirting with her, beknownst to himself.
The F word. She said flirting.
This is going to be on our tombstones. It was flirting. No, it wasn't.
But I love that they took the letters and, read it to each other. And it was such a surprise at the end, too, to find out that the letters were from 1908, not 2008.
That should have been our biggest surprise. Yeah, that should have been our biggest surprise moment. I had no idea. I was like, what?
But yeah, it was just so beautifully done, and I love it. I love it so much, and I love the fact that too, they could have just done flashbacks of Catherine and Jonathan meeting. Like, you can hear the voiceover of Oliver and Shane reading the letters, and then we see it, but we don't see it because that's not the focus.
Right.
And so I thought it was really well done. So that would be the one I wrote down. We'll see if anybody says the one I was thinking, my second.
And I love the fact that Rita gets the special delivery at the end too. They packed a lot into that episode.
They
did.
And it was short, but it was really meaningful. So I thought it was cool.
And of course, Norman's friends don't leave friends locked in bank vaults.
Yes, that's another good Postables line.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That needs to be a t-shirt, Casey.
Yeah.
Friends don't leave friends locked in bank vaults, and put a picture of a vault.
I'll write that one down.
There you go.
Start a list.
Jess?
All right. I did have two Who Am I Concerned as one of the two, because it is one of my favorites, but also I put Dark of Night. I knew
you were going to do that one.
I don't want to say people don't like it, but I think they do. I think I don't want to say undervalued, but it's a heavier topic and people don't always want to see that, especially in something from Hallmark. And what I love about it is that it has such a message of like hope and a theme of redemption versus revenge, and just that you can come back from something, all these horrible things happening to you, and still live and still have hope for your future. And especially in today's world, I think that's a message that we need to hear, is that there's hope and there's redemption.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and one of my favorite ones is of Bobby and Ellie, Future Me. I just think that is, first of all, the two actors who played in that were just really great. But I think that I know there's a Postable who has a Down syndrome son, and her whole community was alerted that Martha was going to be writing this, and they really came behind her, because you don't see topics like that done very much on TV.
We talked about that when we did the recap. They don't do that very often.
And I think this is one of the remarkable things about Signed, Sealed, Delivered, is that Martha doesn't shy away from these things. I mean, she even did the one about the Edge of Forever was about the 9/11 attack and the impact it has on people. And, it either brings you together or separates you. And the girls were separated. They didn't talk about it. But anyway, I think that was a pretty standout one too, about the conflict between parents. And it's a very tough topic, but she handled it and she did it well. And I liked that episode.
Yeah. I'm going to say my second one real quick because nobody mentioned it, but my runner-up was The Masterpiece.
Really?
Which is kind of unconventional. But again, I will say, usually with Hallmark, it's predictable. So father, son, they have a fallout, father, son, reunite, all is well, all is happy in the world. But with this one, Danny had passed away, and he passed away 3 years prior. And so it was done so well. It was the writing was amazing, because you actually you felt for both parties at different points. And it really just, brought in a lot of different emotions. And there was a redemption in in the granddaughter. And, he could reunite with that family and still have a part of his son, but through his granddaughter. And I thought that was just so beautiful. But yeah, that one was another one for me. It's kind of a gruff one, because the dad is like super frustrating in the beginning, but at the end, when it's all tied together, it is a beautiful
That's
story.
So real. I mean, there are very many dads who are not happy if their kids don't follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
That's a very real issue in the world.
It is.
Yeah,
and it's hard to talk to your dad, because he wants you to do, he thinks you should appreciate what he's done for you all your life, and you just can't see the calling. So
I also really love in that one where Oliver says, you each took the other's silence as more rejection. And just like how true it is, we assume something, and it just adds to our grief or our hurt, and when it never needed to. We just
that's where it's classic Hallmark, is they do the whole assuming thing.
Yeah. All right. So our last topic of the podcast is the best Postables moment. Who would like the challenge to go first?
I got this one.
All right,
Ooh.
go.
It's when Rita and Norman we're the Postables, and they just come up with the name, and I just love how like their childlike glee. They're like, oh my gosh, we're like secret agents, like and all those names they come up with, Task Force 1 or like whatever. And oh, the Postables. I love that because it's when they become the Postables, and it's great. I love
That
it.
was one of mine.
Yeah.
That was one of mine. Yep.
That was one of mine too.
Marybeth, you want to go?
Okay, let me see. I like the moment where, and again, this is I'm thinking of them as the family, the family. When Oliver starts tearing up when he's reading Samilla's letter, and Shane kind of perks up and comes over to him and says, "Oliver, are you okay?" And she takes the letter from him and starts reading for him. And then he kind of composes himself. And then when she gets to the part where there's a college, she gives it back to him and she goes down her computer and he continues the reading of the letter. But to me, it just shows the seamless teamwork with which they're starting to develop and their concern for one another. And I liked that moment among all the others I wrote down.
Yeah. All right. Cammie?
I've got a funny one and a serious one. And my biggest problem is I kept looking for moments that had all four of them. It's like, okay, I've got a really good one that there's two of them. I've got a really good one that there's three of them. So I was having trouble with that. But my funny one is when they're spying on Oliver. It just that's I mean technically that does involve all four of them, but it's really the three, and just the bloop 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 of their heads appearing. Just I seriously thought that Shane was gonna bang Norman in the head by accident because their heads were so close. I seriously wonder if that was an outtake, if the two of them banged heads. But I love that. I love that moment when they're spying on Oliver. And then my serious one is when they're reading Michael Wheeler's letter. I mean, when they're reading Melissa's letter. It's all four of them. They're all together. They all feel the severity of it. Norman asks Oliver if he can have one of his yoo-hoos. It's just a very sweet, very special, very important moment.
Yeah.
With them coming together as a team.
For sure.
That, and when Shane's on the computer and all three of them are just gathered around her, so you have all four of them committing a felony. You know? Nothing says family like committing a felony.
We don't know any hackers.
No! That's a movie, Jess. That's in one of the movies.
I wrote down for my best Postables moment is when they won the Dark of Night award.
I thought of that too.
And for me, it just sealed their bond as a team because you have all these, you have Shane, who's an outlier at the very beginning. You have, Rita and Norman, who are very quirky. You have Oliver, who is very old fashioned and very like straight laced and stiff and everything. Like you have these four characters who you wouldn't think would have a bond and you wouldn't think that they'd get along, but somehow it all works together. And, that was the moment where it was just like starting to click for everybody. And then just seeing that their work that they had done, got them the Dark of Night award, and seeing, the surprise in Norman and Rita's face, and just to see the shock on Oliver and, the delight in Shane, it just sealed those four together, like as an ensemble. I mean, you can't break them up type of thing. And I don't know, it's such a good scene, especially knowing how much the Dark of Night award, like how much that means to Oliver, because his grandfather had received that award and his grandfather was his hero. And, we find out later that his dad also received the Dark of Night award, but at this moment, he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
And he's not, speaking with his dad, and, his grandfather is the hero, and that's who he had aspired to be with. But that was mine. That was my top moment.
And then in the next movie, at the Miss Special Delivery contest too, they're all together cheering for Rita, and they kind of carry on that family. And Shane takes Oliver's hand and says, "Do that thing you do.
Do that thing you do."
because Norman said she didn't know 13, but then she looked and she said, "Oh, I better not hold his hand." So then she held Norman's hand. But the way they cheered together was carrying on, the family that they had become.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure. All right, you guys, we did it. We covered all of it
through.
Yes, with lots of variety and lots of laughs and lots of fun. Anything else you want to shout out about the series?
Love it.
Just we want more.
We want more. Yes, we do. We all love Signed, Sealed, Delivered. We want to see this podcast continue, and we have lots of ideas, lots of fun things coming down the pipeline for you guys. But in the meantime, rewatch with the Postables. I think it's every Friday, I believe. And look for that on Twitter and on Facebook. Join the Postables Facebook group. You get lots of encouraging words there, and lots of fun announcements, as well as on Twitter. Make sure you hashtag Postables. Also, we do have a merch store at the Hallmarkies podcast, and we have a lot of Postables merch. So you can buy a t-shirt, you can buy a sticker, you can buy a tumbler, a coffee mug, a notebook, a pillow. It's not just t-shirts. So I know some people are like, "Oh, I don't need another article of clothing." Well, we have stickers. I think they're like $3.50. So yeah, go check that out. There are lots of quotes, and there's also 2 designs: "Love Me Like Oliver Loves Shane" and "Love Me Like Norman Loves Rita." Those are 2 of my favorite that I did.
Oh yeah.
Along with others. So go ahead and check those out as well.
Here's the sticker. I just happen to have one here.
Yeah.
This could be yours.
So
I have a mug and a pillow. I have 2 mugs and a pillow.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. Which designs do you have for the mug and pillow?
I have Postables, and I have Shane and Oliver and Norman and Rita.
Oh yes, Lisa.
And that's the pillow I have too.
Oh yes, Lisa, our friend, did that one. She was one of our co-hosts who designed that one, so she did an amazing job. So shout out to Lisa on that. All right, so Marybeth, where can people find you online?
Well, online I'm Marybeth MKP Ruds on Twitter.
Awesome. And Jess, where can people find you?
You can find me at Jess BSW Blog on Instagram and Twitter. And my website is live again at beneathstillwaters.com. And I have to transfer everything manually because I put my site on new host. So I'm manually transferring content, but I'm hoping to have my 2 Shalliver posts back up soon. And hopefully, since there's a lot of new Postables, they can read it for the first time.
Yay.
Yay. All right. And Cami, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cami Drama Girl, Cami spelled Kami. On Facebook, the Hooked Hardy Facebook page, and my blog is hookedhardy.com.
All righty. And then you can find me on Twitter at Hallmark My Words. And you can find this podcast at Deliver Me a Pod on Twitter, Deliver Me a Podcast on Instagram. And be sure to follow the Hallmarkies Podcast on Twitter and Instagram as well. Rate, review, subscribe, give us those 5 stars on iTunes. It helps people find our podcast, and also on YouTube as well. And we do have, because I know a lot of people have been asking, well, how can I find the Deliver Me a Podcast series since we are integrated with the Hallmarkies podcast? If you go to hallmarkiespodcast.com, go to the menu, and then go to bonuses. And then from there, you'll see a link to the YouTube playlist of all our episodes that we've done for Deliver Me a Podcast, starting at the pilot up until this episode. So right now we will have the pilot, the series, Kristen's interview, and this discussion. So that's an easy way to find it. But yeah, just let us know what you think. Shout out to us on the socials. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Have a great one, everybody. We will see you guys next week for some other special fun surprises.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.